My name is Richard Perkins. I was born and raised in Davie, West Virginia. 1940, while my father died and my mother had 4 children. I was the oldest, 2 sisters and a brother younger than I. And in 1942, well, before that, my mother, after my father died in 1940, well, my mother with 4 kids over in West Virginia, she went back and took some college courses. And then in 42, we moved to Norfolk, Virginia. And she went to work for the U.S. Naval Air Station as a timekeeper. She worked there for 34 years and retired. I think it was a G14 or G12, one of the highest ratings, as a head timekeeper. And of course, there was nothing but white hats, Navy personnel in Norfolk at that time. And I wanted to join. I was 16 in 1942. So my mother said if I would finish the 11th grade, she would sign the papers, which she did. In 1943, I enlisted in the Navy.
So you were 17 then?
I was 17 and a half. And took my training there at NOB, Norfolk Training Center, Naval Training Center. And then my first duty station was USS Dearborn, PF-33 is a gunship, and did convoy duty out of the North Atlantic. Our home base, home port was Boston, but we never did see Boston. We operated out of Newfoundland. And I was in the European African Theater. I received 1 battle star for that operation. And then right after the war, I was discharged. And I stayed out less than 90 days and re-enlisted. I retained my rate. I was a 3rd class petty officer. And then I went aboard a ship in 46. I went to the Pacific on USS Capricornus, aka 57. And we went to the islands over there, Subic Bay and all those islands. And what we did was retrieve World War II material, trucks, anything of value, and carried them back to Pearl City, Hawaii. And we made a couple trips to and from the Philippines. And let's see, I left that ship, that was Capricornus. I left that ship in 1947, and went to New Orleans. Had a squadron of destroyers down there, 9 of us, 9 destroyers. And I was assigned to the USS Charles S. Perry, DD 697. We did Naval Reserve training cruises. We did that 1949. Our training cruises would be in Gitmo. And did that just from April until November 1948. I cut the tendons in my finger and was in the Naval Hospital in Houston. And that's where I met my wife in 1948, November of 48. And February 1926, 1949, we got married. 9 months and 15 minutes later. No, I'm just kidding. Well, just about that. The next, let's say, really 11 months later, we had our first boy. And then in 1950, while the Korean War started, and our whole squadron of destroyers, 9 of them, we headed for the 4 East. And we left the States first week of September. We arrived in Sasebo, Japan, latter part of September. First week of October, we were on duty station on the east coast of Korea, and we were on the firing line. And that's about all we did we were at sea for 96 days. And that's a long time, 96 days. And we did firing all up and down the East Coast, Wonsan, Hungnam, and all those places. But in Sanjin, we were doing a sweep, 3 destroyers. We were in the back of the 2, and we took fire. We were taken under fire for shore batteries, and 3 direct hits. One hit went through the smokestack, and the captain's whaleboat it exploded and splintered it. Naturally, we lost it. One projectile went into the 40mm magazine ammo, but it didn't explode. A chief petty officer by the name of Parks retrieved the projectile and handed it to a seaman, and he threw it over the side, and it exploded just as he threw it over the side. Had just 1 casualty from it. And of course, that explosion, we wasn't seaworthy, so we had to, after 96 days, we went into Sasebo dry dock for repair. And from then on out, we helped evacuate Wonsan and Hungnam. And on one thing, kind of more memorable, was we made a run up to the Manchurian border late one evening, got up there around midnight, and we landed frogmen. They're known as seals now. Back then they were frogmen. We put them ashore, and I understand their duties was to blow up railroad tracks, tunnels, bridges, anything of that nature. And shortly after that, that's when our Navy jets started first were introduced into war, was in Korea. We got a Mayday one day, I think it's Yang, Yang, Y-A-N-G, Yang. Got a Mayday, and these 2 Navy jets come out over the mountain. My GQ station, I was captain's talker on the bridge. I stayed right with him. And I had communications with every part of the ship. When he gave orders to commence firing, it went through me. And anyway, we had a Mayday, and these 2 jets came out, and one of them was flaming out. He'd been shot. And he circled us, and he bailed out, and his chute didn't open. And we picked him up, and of course it killed him. And he was a Blue Angel squadron leader, lieutenant commander from Kentucky, had married and had 2 kids. And we carried him, it was 50-degree weather, below 0. And we put him topside and carried him until we caught up with a carrier, and of course transferred. And then the end of June, we headed back. During that time over there, I can read these, my ship were on 1 star for the North Korean aggression, and that was from the 14th of October to the 2nd of November of 1950. We got a 2nd star for the China aggression, 3rd of November 1950, the 24th of January 1951, and 1 star for the first U.S. counter-offensive, 25 January to 21st of April 1951, and 1 star Communist China Spring Offensive, 22nd of April, 4th of June 1951. But you know, while we was in one sun, and it really, old people and young children are the ones that suffer, we would fire day and night. Some nights, all night long, we'd fire. Maybe every 5 minutes. Every different, you know, you have different sequence of firing. You don't get in a rut. Cause we could see the people, the communist Chinese, through binoculars on the beach. And in one report there, and I think that was Yang, the spotters said that our ship alone killed between 150 and 300 Chinese patrolmen that was on, you know, on the beach and throughout. But we'd have to post a watch in Wonsan and in Hungnam too, because the Marines in the Army, they had pushed them off. We had to evacuate. And the old people and kids, and I'd see some just little old tennis shoes on, and we'd post a guard because we had to keep them away from their ship, you know. But we'd throw them clothes, whole loaves of bread over, and stuff like that. And here this 40 and 50 degrees, it's like in December and January of 1950. And it was 40 and 50 degrees below. We were cold on that ship, but how those people, well, see, a lot of our soldiers, Marines, of course, they froze to death on the beach up in those mountains. Because when they got over there in the fall, they wasn't equipped for, and they thought the war was going to be over by Thanksgiving. And then the Chinese came in. And that was about it. Of course, 1st of July, while we had orders to sail back to the States. And that was it.
Did you know that you were going to be stationed or sent to Korea prior?
Well, when our ship left, we didn't know it at first, no. Not until we got underway, until we went through the Panama Canal. Didn't we?
What was your reaction about the news of the Korean War outbreak? How did your family and
I didn't really know that much about it here, you know, really. Of course, I was homesick before I left the docks, really, because we had our first kid,
right.
First little boy. 11 months and 2 weeks after I was over there, my second boy was born. He was born 2 months after I arrived there. So there's 11 months, about 2 weeks between my first boy. And of course, I didn't see him until, you know, I got back. He was 8 months old the time I got back, or 9, something like that.
Where did you arrive in Korea?
I never set foot in Korea. We was aboard ship. Like I said there, for the first 96 days, we were at sea, up and down. Now, we dropped anchor in Wonsan, Hungnam, and different places like that. But we would be bombarding all night, firing, you know, like that.
How were your living conditions as far as food and sleep, and, clothing?
It was fine aboard ship. We had no qualms at all about that.
Do you recall how much you were getting paid around the time?
No, I remember how much I made in '43. I think it was $27 a month, I believe. Now, at the time I got over, I was second class petty officer, and I don't remember how much it was. You know, really don't. Of course, I sent practically all my money home had allotments made out to my wife, you know.
Were you able to kind of keep in touch with your wife through letters, possibly?
Oh yeah, yeah. We have a reunion once a year with my ship. This year it's going to be in Nashville, Tennessee.
When's that going to be?
I think it's going to be I won't be going April, end of April sometime. I got a notice on it, but I won't be able to go. we had our first reunion in 88 in Norfolk, you know. And I still keep in touch with a lot of my buddies that was, you know, that was there. I was on that ship for, let's see, 47, 48, 49, 55, 4 years, a little over 4 years.
Part of your legacy and your beliefs, your opinions, this is everything that we want to preserve. We want to preserve who you are and what you believe, and I think you went really well.
I just worry about my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren. I have 7 grandchildren and 8 great-grandchildren.
Congratulations. It's pretty awesome.
And I worry about them, really, and their offspring.